Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us. This is the first session of our preseason series leading into the season. While the focus of this training is for the Deep Three, there are applications which go across the board to all positions. So if you're not a deep member of the Deep Three, don't worry. You'll benefit from this. So we're glad to have you. And I guess I should have introduced myself to everyone. Most of you know me from previous years. Rich Ames, worked 45 years of college football, 25 in the MAC and the Big Ten. Um, Retired. This will be my sixth season off the field already, and now work for the COC as a consultant, primarily with new officials. That's called the developmental program. So this is my opportunity to give back to the game that I love that's been so good to me. So um, again, thanks for joining us. Glad to do it. This is open to everyone. So if you know someone on your crew or a fellow official that's not necessarily on your crew, feel free to share the link. Be very welcome to share the recordings and use them accordingly. If there's a part of a recording that you'd like to use for an association meeting, by all means, feel free to go ahead and do so. The last thing that I want to say, it's very, very important. So please tune in. If you've not caught anything else, please catch this. We're going to show video. Most of it will be from the semis and finals of last year's playoffs in Michigan. And you may be on the screen if you worked one of those positions. And even if you weren't, you probably will know someone who is on the screen. We are all brothers and sisters in this avocation. And the one thing that will not be tolerated is for someone in our group to dog another official. If we don't support one another, we can't expect that we're going to be supported by others. So take that into consideration and we'll get along just fine. Okay, we're going to do two topics tonight. The first one is going to be on sideline communication. And there again, you might be thinking, well, I'm an umpire or I'm a referee. Well, you need to know what's going on over on the sideline, and you need to know what to expect of your sideline officials in terms of what they should be doing. So there is something here for everyone, and maybe an opportunity for everyone to learn a little something about what we're doing on the sideline. So I'm going to share my screen. We're going to start with a PowerPoint. All right. So in a perfect world, everyone would get along. Everybody would be happy. The white area would be clear. No one would lose their temper. Everything would be clear cut on the field. Nothing would be controversial. But of course, we know that's not how things work. In the real world, we're dealing with feelings and emotions on the part of players as well as coaches. And we need to understand our role and their role and be prepared, anticipate to the chance and the ability that we have in various situations to anticipate when there's going to be a problem and to head off problems before it gets too far along. So as we think about sideline communication and management, understand that this is a huge part of game management. We need, on occasion, at key points, to be able to share information to our coaches. And our ability to do so on a timely basis cannot be overstated. Now, it's something we're not very good at, and it's understood regardless of how many years you've been doing this, whether it's football or basketball, although I would say basketball officials probably are better at it than people and maybe other sports as well, because you're right there and the coaches are right there. So you get used to it and you kind of learn how to handle it. But we need to understand what we're doing over there. We need to find that happy medium of not being intimidating, or being intimidated, not being overbearing, and certainly never arrogant. And, I tried to think of an example. So what I came up with is maybe an analogy of the first time that you met your in-laws or your boss for the first time. You need to be in a position where there's a sense of confidence, but yet a respect for the person and communication as such that would be respectful of them in their given situation. So to the degree possible, we want to have both sides of the field look as close to the same as possible. And I'll just use one example. If we have sideline problems where we have people in the white, we're issuing warnings, maybe even we have to throw a flag because we run into someone or we run around someone. What we need to make sure is that there's not a legitimate claim that, well, the other side is letting them be on the field and you just nailed me because I was in the white. So we need to work on it. And it's one of the advantages of switching sidelines at halftime is that both sidelines get a feel for either one or two officials from that particular crew. But we need to talk about this. We need to have common expectations so that it's the same first half to second half. It's the same with the down judge and the side judge. It is with the line judge and the field judge. All right, so how do we do this? Well, first of all, we need to initiate some rapport, and that starts in the pregame. So we need to designate an official. And again, we're going to assume this is a 7-person crew. So we're going to have 4 people that are going to be involved in the sideline communication process. So all 4 should go to probably the visiting coach first. But if they're not out there, then go to the team that's out on the field. But given the choice, probably start with the visitors. Understand at the bottom of the screen down here, the coaching staff is watching how you're handling your business with the opposing team. Now, again, as equal as we can make it, we want to do that because we don't want to have it look like in this particular picture, like it's old home week, that they're thinking, oh my God, that must be his brother-in-law or, some other connection. So this is not the side judge's fault, but try not to have it get that friendly. All right. But you should predetermine which one of the 4 of you is going to talk. And again, it can't come across like we don't know what we're doing when we get over there. We need to have it pretty well rehearsed so that we cover key things. For instance, we want to know after we introduce ourselves, specific information requests. Does he want to know the number of the player that fouled? Probably does. We need to alert him that in certain situations, we need to find him to get answers in terms of options, whether it be the succeeding spot after a touchback or an option that is not obvious if the opposing team fouls. Here's an important one. Any questions about sideline expectations? I've been looking at the Federation rulebook the past week or so, and they have a statement in there about sportsmanship as it relates to coaches as well as players, and keeping coaches off the sideline and behaving properly has been a point of emphasis, not only in college football, but high school football as well. So we need to make sure that we provide the opportunity for any questions to be answered. Part of that is to determine who the get back coach is going to be. And sometimes they'll say, well, it's going to be me. Okay, now, all right, maybe that's going to work. Maybe it's not going to work, but that's his choice. But regardless of whether there is a formal sideline coach or not, our expectations are going to be the same. Now, let me say this clearly. And again, this is something that hopefully you will remember. The key to keeping coaches out of the white is to keep the players out of the coach's box. Pure and simple. If you keep the players out of the coach's box, the coaches will respect the white a whole lot more easily than they will if the players are moving up, because quite naturally, they're going to want to be out in front of their sideline personnel. All right, and again, understand while you're down there working with the home team coach, the visiting coaches are watching what you're doing at the other end, and we want to try to make it as congruent as possible. All right, so if there is a get back coach, find out who it is, go talk with them. This is a person that's going to be very important to you and how things go over on that sideline. One of the things you need to determine is the level of influence that that person is going to have. If this is someone that doesn't look like they would say, you know what, if they had a mouthful, you need to understand what you're dealing with. But again, our expectations are going to be the same. When you talk with the get back coach, emphasize how important it is for them to keep the players out of the coach's box. And our first duty is to make sure that the sideline is clear before we start the game. A little note here, these are my kind of get back coaches because obviously they do have influence. This guy is pulling his coach aggressively. That might even be the streaker. That was a streaker. He took him down. But here's the coach bringing his head coach or an assistant coach back to the sideline. All right, so before the kickoff, a courtesy is that one of the two of you on the sideline, it's normally the deep wing, is just going to do sort of a check-in with the head coach. All set to go, coach? And normally you're going to get, yeah, thanks. But you did your due diligence by going to that person and making sure that you touch base with them so that their headset is working or whatever else might go along with what they're trying to do over there. This is the coach's, your get back coach. I say I got a typo there. Your get back coaches, we want to make sure that the sidelines are clear for that opening kickoff to get off to a good start. All right, so during the game, what you're looking to do is to build capital because at some point you're probably going to need to have an ability to have a communication with that coach. So try to keep track of the head coach. Now, don't be distracted by it. Obviously, you have other responsibilities. You have to finish plays with good dead ball officiating. You have to have a good pre-snap routine, but normally there's some time in there when we're not in hurry up offense where you can be watching and listening what's going on in your respective sideline. So try to keep an eye and an ear on that head coach so that you can seek him out when and if it's necessary. And again, here are the things that potentially you would have conversation about. Now, here's a big one. Now, replay doesn't happen until we get to Ford Field, but our warnings, particularly with formations. And again, if you go into your Federation book, they're concerned about what formations look like. So we need to have the ability to say to that coach, hey, that tackle is not up. I need your help to get the tackle up there. We issue a warning, and then after the warning, if the tackle is not where he needs to be, we foul it for an illegal formation. All right, now what happens when the coach wants to talk or has a question? First of all, that can't happen certainly while the play is going on, and hopefully not when we're either finishing a play. Let's take that one first, all right? Coach wants to talk at the end of the play. What you say is, Coach, I'll be with you in just a minute. Let me finish my job. Take care of your business. Maybe that involves relaying the ball into the umpire, whatever is applicable for the given situation. All right, then you go and you take care of your business. Or, Coach, just give me one more second. Got to make sure that the count of the defense is correct. Okay, now what's your question? And it's got to be quick because there's not a lot of time in between plays. Body language is extremely important. Eye contact is important. Be a good listener, don't feel like that you are obligated to speak every time the coach has something to say to you. I've referred to it as the Jeopardy guideline. Everything needs to be in the form of a question. Otherwise, it's just his opinion. So don't feel like you need to respond. Don't be afraid to walk away if things aren't going the way you think they should be going, particularly when they get personal. And that doesn't happen often. But Mike Conlon used to say, if somebody starts out by saying, you are, there aren't many good options that finish that sentence. You are a nice guy. That typically is not something that we get. So that our antenna ought to go up there. All right. If you are going to respond, there's a question, make sure you know what you're going to say and be as brief as possible, because the longer you talk, more likely it is you're going to get yourself into trouble. Try to think in terms of sound bites rather than paragraphs. All right. Talk in a normal, controlled tone, even if he is not. Coach, I can hear you. Coach, I'm right here. We're only 6 feet apart. Those sorts of things. You stay calm and collected. Resist the temptation to get into a verbal judo match. Okay. Witty barbs are something fun you can talk about at the bar after the game that you wanted to say, but you didn't. Some of the best things that I said, not only in my officiating career, but my administrative career, were things I didn't say. Let me say that again. Some of the best things that I said in both of my careers were things that I thought, but I didn't say. Apply the same principle and you'll be better off. And again, be as concise as possible. All right. And there are going to be times where the coaches, for whatever reason, whether it's a big call on the field or whatever happens to be, maybe you've got a play that happens towards the end zone and they don't like what happened. Maybe they thought that it was DPI, whatever it happens to be. Don't be surprised by that. We should anticipate when someone might react negatively. Be prepared, be preventive. For instance, if you see them coming towards you, coach, I'll be with you in just a minute. Put the stop sign up. Keep them off the field. That's just absolutely critical. You know, Mark Ewell has talked about that. If they're out in the field protesting, they ought to be fouled because they have fouled. Try to do what you can to keep them from getting to that particular point. If necessary, you can bring your referee over if there's a question, particularly related to a ruling or some procedure. Try not to do that real often. It should be a special circumstance, but it's not a weakness on your part if you do need to bring the referee over there. Sometimes the head coach just wants to talk to the head man, which on a crew we know is the referee. If the coach has it coming, like he's on the field throwing clipboards, whatever, if it calls itself, follow it. Put the flag down. Make sure your flag gets out into the field. You put that flag into the bench, there's a good chance that you're now working without your flag because it's going to disappear. So if you do need to flag, and by the way, we don't need to throw that to the moon and back, just get it out on the field, okay? Because the higher we throw it, the more it looks like we're ticked off, all right? Just get the flag visible out onto the field. In summary, always, 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 always be professional. You know, our coordinators can support us when we are professional. Where it gets tough for them is when we do or say something that afterwards we regret that we did or said, all right? Less is more. Don't feel like you got to match them word for word. Be proactive, anticipate situations like that might have an emotional situation attached to it, and also be alert if you see a flag go down, someone from, and say the flag's on the other side of the field, all right? With your O2Os, you should know what that is pretty quickly, and you should be able to say, all right, they've got encroachment over there, or they've got a holding foul on that play. So your choices are going to be first and 20 or second and 12 or second and 8, whatever it happens to be based on the result of the play. those are the kinds of communications we need to be actively engaged in alert throughout the game. And finally, it goes without saying, always be the adult in the room. Part of my administrative career, I dealt with coaches, and both the good, the bad, and the ugly came out of that. So I'm fully aware from that end of it, but I'm also aware from an administrative point of view that if my coach is in the wrong, it helps me a great deal in terms of getting things corrected if the officiating staff handled the situation well. It gets really, really complicated when it becomes a you know what contest with a skunk. All right. It's not good. It's not pretty. It's harder for me to get that corrected with the coach. All right. So that's PowerPoint. And by the way, I'll be happy to share that. When we get the recording of this session, I'll attach both of these PowerPoints for your use. I'll correct that typo that I spotted tonight so that you'll have a good copy of it. Use it at your discretion. You can adjust it, amend it, add things to it, subtract things. It's yours to use. There's no copyright attached to it. All right, Gregor, let's take a look at some video here. Now, while Gregor is getting the video up, let me make a comment. Was Sideline communication and management, the problem is that the camera doesn't come on soon enough or turns off too quickly for us to really have a lot of examples of how we can efficiently deal with our sideline communication. So what I'm going to show you in effect is a lot of net results, both good and bad, or good and not so good, of things that we did and didn't do. All right, so this is a game from Ford Field. Now, the thing that I'd like you to see or notice in the upper right-hand corner is that the offense, well, it's the defensive team on that side of the field. Now, they think because they're behind the snap that they can be up on the sideline, on the field, whatever. The expectation is the same wherever we are on the field. Now, the reality of it is the further we get away from the benches, it becomes less important. But why it's important at all is that if we have a quick turnover, we got to have the ability to have the white clear so that our short wings can get up the field to cover these plays. So it is essential that we have people out of the white, even when they're behind the snap. Now, nothing came of this. This is just a pretty much a standard play, but it illustrates an important concept. And again, we need to be diplomatic over there. And the coach is going to say, well, there's nothing in my way, or there's nothing here that would be problematic for you. Well, no, as long as the ball is going towards the goal line. But if you got a turnover, yeah. So you can explain that, and most people will work with you to get out of the white so that we can perform our duties appropriately. All right, let's go to the next one, Gregor. Now, what we're going to get on this next series of plays, what we're going to have is people inside the limit line. Now, on your fields, and I know not all of them are legally marked and all of that, but you have the 6-foot white barrier, and sometimes that's not even marked in solid white. And then you have another 6 feet that is supposed to be for the players or the coaches. And then behind that is where the players are supposed to be. But that box extends, and other than your game personnel, you should not have anyone inside the limit line. So as this play goes to the right, notice all the people that are on the sideline in the way over here that have no business whatsoever that close to the sideline, including the people that are right behind. And we'll call this the side judge. All right. Now, this play is going to break, and the side judge is going to get all gummed up with these people over here. And we will never know whether he would have gotten to the goal line on time or not. But his fate was determined once he runs into these people, and now he's off stride. And you can see we're in chase mode now, and we're not very good when we're in chase mode. Our best chance is to be ahead of plays at our own pace so that we can make sure that we have the proper cushion. And here, obviously, we didn't. Now, whose fault is that? Now, this is an example of what I'm talking about. I'm sure this person was trying to be a good guy over there, and I'm sure he is a good guy. But by being a good guy, he ended up not being able to cover the play properly. Get those people out of the restricted area. All of those people should have been behind what would have been the limit line. Okay, next clip. Now, this is going to be traffic at the goal line. See again, we'll call it the side judge over here. That's way too much company. We're not throwing a party over there. The party can be after the game, but during the game, we don't want that kind of help. They're not going to provide you anything that you want. They're not going to be helpful to anything that you're going to do over there. So again, all of those people are much too close to the sideline. I think that's a photographer that's about at the 3. My goodness. Those people need to be back, should be clearly behind that orange 10-yard line. I think it's the 10. But clear that area, get them out of there. They can see the game just as well another 6 feet back than they can right where they are. And most of those people have nothing to do with the game whatsoever. Oh, they're photographers. Well, you know what? They've got lenses that can pick a gnat off a fly's fanny. They don't need to be that close to the field. Get them out of there. All right, next clip. Again, there's going to be way too much traffic over here at the sideline. Now, this was a really, really well played game by two of the Titans. This was Davison playing against Belleville in a semifinal game. And I'm sure Davison and Belleville, they had everybody dressed, including the water people and the ball people. Anyone, they had a lot of people on the sideline, probably all the JVs, freshmen, everyone they could put in a uniform. That's not our problem. It's their responsibility to back up if necessary onto the track or whatever else. That's game management's issue. We cannot have people this close to the sideline and expect to do our job properly. Now, there are a lot of other things going on here. You had a grab and restrict, a hook and turn that we didn't get, but that'll be for another program when we talk about quality fouls. All right, next clip. Now, what we're going to have here is, once again, traffic on a punt return. Now, this is all from the same game, and these plays are pretty much later in the game. So we've not made adjustments over here. We've not cleaned up our sideline. This is in the second half, or maybe late in the first half, and we still have the same issues that we had the first series of the game. And we just have to be more insistent on that. See, coach, the field judge or side judge ran into a coach. They have no business being there. All right, so that gives you an idea of the importance of your get back coach. Use those people, keep the players out of the coach's box. That'll help the coaches stay out of the white, and everyone will enjoy it much more, and will cover the plays much, much better. All right, questions so far? Gregor, do we have anything in the chat?
Nothing yet, Rich.
Good. Okay, if you think of something, don't hesitate. All right, now the next presentation is going to be on catch, no catch. And we have some really good video that I think you will appreciate. There we go. All right, first of all, understand the principles of recovery, catch, no catch are all the same. when it relates to, in the case of like a recovery of a backward pass or something like that is and near the sideline, all these things are interrelated. So, and could result in the ball being muffed rather than recovered based on whether there was firm control. So I think you'll see the correlation as we move forward here. All right, first of all, we need to have a clear understanding of what constitutes a catch or recovery. And that's covered in your rule book. So we won't take a lot of time for that. But philosophically, when in doubt, we're going to wipe it out. We don't want to have cheap turnovers. But yet, we need to have a mindset that the pass or the loose ball will be caught or recovered. Now, are those conflicting statements? Absolutely not. Because, and maybe they should be reversed in terms of order. But as a play is developing, if our mindset is there's no way that this receiver or this defensive back is going to be able to catch this ball and stay in bounds, we're thinking wrong. Okay. We're anticipating rather than letting the play happen and then responding to it. Now, once the play happens, all right, when in doubt, we're going to wipe it out in terms of a catch or an interception. And we'll see some of that when we get into the video. But the worst thing that we can do is to prejudge in either direction. It's much more common that you prejudge that, this is going to be incomplete, or there's no way he's going to be able to recover this fumble before he goes out of bounds. That's not a good idea. All right, so then what takes us to being in the proper position. We have to execute prescribed mechanics. Now, if you've been a part of this series for any length of time, you know the value that's placed on proper base mechanics that has come from me and others in our leadership of the various conferences and our associations to cover plays. Where we get in trouble is when we're guessing. And if our mechanics are not good, that's exactly what we're doing, is we're theorizing rather than knowing exactly what took place. So we have to work and communicate as a team on the field and with proper ruling. Don't just assume that, well, I'm the rookie on the crew and the adjoining official is a veteran, so I'm sure he got it right. No, if you have information to contribute, you got to bring it. And then the other thing, and this is as much for referees as it is anyone else, you have to have a mindset. You have to have a culture within your crew that people that come and bring information and ask questions, that they are valued, they are reaffirmed, they are you appreciate the fact that they came up and asked the question, even if you stick with the ruling on the field, whether it's penalty enforcement, whether it's a catch, no catch, whatever it happens to be. The worst thing you can do is to shame somebody, because the first time that you shame somebody on the crew from coming in and asking a question, what are the chances that someone on the crew is going to do that the next time? Not very good. So don't let that occur within your crew, within your family. All right, so into the specifics here. We got to have firm control of the ball, whether it's a pass, a recovery, a fumble, whatever it happens to be, firm control of the ball. Now, in the case of a pass, it's got to be firm control before the ball touches the ground. But keep in mind, if the receiver does have firm control of the ball might well touch the ground, and unless it rattles around in there, the mere fact that it touches the ground doesn't make it incomplete as long as firm control is maintained. Obviously, a body part has to be down in bounds. And then the next step is firm control must be maintained long enough to perform an act common to the game. Throw it, kick it, hand it off, those sorts of things. If a player does not have the ability to do one of those things and the ball comes loose, then either the pass is incomplete or the recovery is not completed and you don't have a dead ball. Okay. All right. Now, if the player is upward, they're on their feet, whether they have had contact from an opponent or not, but they're going to the ground, they must maintain complete and continuous control of the ball. If hopefully you understand the aspect of upright, and we'll have a couple of those when we get to the video. But if a player catches the ball on his feet and maintains firm control, and then the ball comes out of there, what do you have? You have a fumble. So also pointing out here that this aspect of complete and continuous control applies the same to the field of play in the end zone. We used to have a school of thought that once the ball broke the plane of the end zone, that they had earned a catch. And that's no longer the case. I'm not sure it was ever really the case. But if the player is going to the ground, whether it's in the end zone or the field of play, they must survive the ground. Obviously, if possession is lost, then they have to regain firm control of the ball before the ball touches the turf or before they touch something out of bounds. Now, here's an important point. Maintains firm control, slight movement of the ball is permitted. Now, what's meant by that is that if you have firm control of the ball out in front of you, obviously you can and should be bringing the ball into your body to protect the ball getting ripped out of there. Now, that is completely different than the ball rattling around. Rattling around where the player does not have firm control, movement of that ball is going to create potentially an incomplete pass. Now, here's an important statement. It's one of those if-then statements. When in question, a catch or recovery is not completed. Just make sure that you don't prejudge it and you see it all the way through to completion. And if necessary, that you consider input from another official on the field. All right, talking about mechanics again. We want to be stationary when we can, but we know particularly as deep wings and back judges that the nature of plays, particularly if we have fade patterns or other longer patterns up the field, that we are going to have to make decisions on the run. And again, if you're a basketball official or a soccer official, even hockey officials, you know that you have to do that all the time. Sight lines, our cushion and our angles are incredibly important. And that's why we need to make sure that we execute those mechanics properly. Angles are much more important than proximity. In fact, the closer you get to the action, the more difficult it is for you to make a good decision. An important point, slow down and confirm with adjacent officials. And again, we're going to see some video, which I think will help illustrate this point as well as others. Philosophy-wise, we need to apply that the catch or recovery isn't completed when in doubt. And the ground can't cause a fumble. It can make a pass or recovery incomplete, but it can't cause a fumble. And once again, our mindset needs to be not to prejudge that it can't be completed. That's when we get in trouble. All right. So work for good sight lines. Distance is your friend. Angles are preferred always over proximity. Here's a big one. Don't rush to judgment. Take your time. You feel like that something big happens on the field and you got to make an immediate decision and look really confident. Well, I'd much prefer you take your time so that the decision that you make is the best one and we end up with the correct decision as opposed to a quick one that isn't the right one. Always, always, always communicate with partners both verbal and nonverbal. And a critical piece is that if you have information, you can't hesitate. You've got to come and bring it so that we stand a better chance to get it right. So our knowledge here, applying the rules and philosophy, must do something common to the game to complete a catch, survive the ground, no cheap turnovers, and we're headed in the right direction. So, Gregor, well, first of all, let's stop. Any questions that came out of the PowerPoint? Anything in the chat?
I got nothing in the chat, no questions, so feel free to unmute or put something in there if you got anything.
Okay. All right, let's go to our video.
Hey, Rich, looks like we had somebody unmute. Go ahead if you had a question.
Uh, yeah. Hey, Rich, this is Danny Hawk. How are you doing?
Good. Hey, thanks for joining in.
Yeah, absolutely. I just wanted to, I guess, maybe reiterate and also expand upon one thing you talk about sideline management quickly. You made a reference to basketball officiating. And when I moved from back judge to side judge, I started officiating basketball. And that was part of my thought process was it helped me build a routine with everything, my posture, my body language, my words, my thoughts, deep breaths, all that stuff, so that when I have a basketball coach that's hollering at me, he thinks he's getting under my skin, but really he's giving me an opportunity to perfect my routine. So I think that shows confidence, and that puts coaches at ease when they know that you're communicating and you seem like you can answer questions and things
We
like that.
lost.
So I just want to reiterate the importance of that, whether it's basketball or whatever else you can do to kind of help build your routine.
Well, there clearly are crossover skills. And in every sport, we have to be in a position where we can defuse situations. So clearly we can get good experience from working other sports. And conversely, your work with football officiating should have benefits to other sports that you work, whether it's baseball, soccer, tiddlywinks, whatever it happens to be. Thank you, Danny. Appreciate that very much. All right, we've got
Yeah.
about 15 minutes for some video here. So this is all going to be on catch, no catch. So
Rich,
Gregor?
do you have time for one quick question about sideline management?
Yes.
Edgar
Yes.
wants to know, should we be quicker on the draw for sideline warnings?
Well, not necessarily, but yet in certain situations you might have to. Your first line of defense is your get back coach. So again, the more influence that get back coach has to get the players out of the coach's box, the better chance you have of having the white area clear. You're going to be able to tell pretty quickly whether that is going to work out well for you or whether you're going to have to be more assertive with it. Try to stay away from the head coach if you can, unless the head coach has said that he's the get back coach. Then you've got no choice but to go to the head coach. But I'd work with the get back coach to say, look, I don't want to go to the head coach because he's going to be mad at both of us if I go to him. So can you help me out here? You know, can you keep that white area clear by keeping the players back? But you're going to have to ratchet it up. You know, if you're not getting what you need, you've got to fix this early in the game. I appreciate the question because it gives me an opportunity to reinforce a very, very important point that I need to add to the PowerPoint. The quicker you address this, the quicker you impose the mindset on the part of the players and the coaches on the sideline that the white area is no man's land except for the guys or gals in the stripes, the better off you're going to be. The longer you go into the game, the more difficult the process is to clean it up. Good question. Okay. Catch and no catch. We're going to have some video. And now we have about 12 minutes. So this this first one is going to be pretty obvious. The kid probably catches this pass, except for the DB stripping the ball. All right. Now, the point that I'd like to make here is that maybe the deep wing came to a stop and got stationary because the pass was incomplete. I would say I'd rather have you continue with a few more steps back than to check up too quickly. The other thing is it's an obvious incomplete, maybe one, maybe two incomplete signals. That's plenty. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. That's a pretty simple play. Don't overemphasize. It's like the first base umpire making an emphatic call on a two-stepper. Okay. All right, next clip. All right, first of all, stop the video a minute, Gregor. All right, go back to the third back in at the bottom of the screen. Now, we're going to talk about this when we get to base mechanics, but you're probably thinking, well, it doesn't really matter whether he's in the backfield or not. Well, in this formation, you're right, it doesn't, because you've got another back, which means that the back judge is going to be shading to the bottom of the screen. But if that running back that's next to the quarterback was out at the top of the screen, now where that player is becomes very, very important in terms of which side of the field the back judge is going to shade. So we need to have a mechanism by which, and 020 is perfect, we can communicate the location of that slot back. Because with the formation being slightly different, it would affect which side of the field the back judge is going to favor. But again, we'll get to that when we get to base mechanics. All right, go ahead, let her run. This is going to be a really, really nice job by our back judge right up the middle of the field. Now, our deep wing to the top of the screen has business right away because you've got a defensive back that's in press coverage, and they do some hand fighting. So I can understand why the deep wing at the top of the screen gets kind of a late start in terms of covering this play further downfield. If you look at the wide receiver at the top of the screen and the DB, they lock up, they do some hand fighting. Okay, now we get a quick pattern that goes up the field. Now the deep wing does a nice job recovering, but the real star of this play is the back judge with his cushion and the fact that he recognizes that this pass gets ripped out of there and this is just an incomplete pass. This receiver could not do something common to the game. This is just a really good incomplete pass. Good ruling. Now, we had something happen at the end of the play. And again, we're not talking about dead ball officiating here, but somebody's got to know how this guy gets to the turf. Okay, at the end, at the left-hand side of the screen, how'd that guy go down? It gives the impression that maybe that white player gave him a push. We need to know that. Now, that probably anyone on the field could get that. I would say line of scrimmage people, if you're ball hawking, we're in trouble. Umpires, if you're ball hawking, we're in big trouble. Okay. If there was a foul there, we needed to have a rag down because that's a game control situation. All right. Next clip. All right. First of all, please, 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 when you're talking with coaches, don't ask them if their quarterback is right-handed or not. You need to know that. You need to have looked at video to know that the quarterback is left-handed, the punter is left-footed or right-footed, or can kick with both feet, whatever it is, all right? Don't ask the coach that question. That makes us look like we're not prepared. All right, now on this particular play, you need to focus on the deep wing that is at the goal line, at the top of the screen. Now, it looks like he starts at the back edge of the white, which is good. But as this play develops, distance is your friend. And he should be backing up well before the decision is made. Right about now would be a good time for him to start giving ground back to what would be the limit line. All right, keeping the goal line right between his legs. The other thing is the player goes to the ground. And I would say that we were just a little bit quick in terms of signaling a touchdown here. I'd like this to be more deliberate. I'd like for you to ensure with a count or two before you ring this up as a touchdown. There's no need to hurry this decision. We get excited sometimes. We think we've got to sell a play, whatever it happens to be. No, take the time and then go up with your signal after you've had a chance to confirm the catch. Back judge does a good job coming over to what would be the hash mark. Back judge should not be signaling touchdown here. That is not his line. That is not his play. Stay off of that. Just like the short wing should not be signaling touchdown. All right, next clip. This play is going to come to the bottom of the screen, and this is really great work by our short wing. Right now, that might have looked like a catch when you look at it at full speed. But now, this time, slow it down a little bit, Gregor, and you can see that this receiver never really puts the ball away. He's carrying it like a loaf of bread. He kind of has his arm around the middle of the ball, doesn't have his hand over the point of the ball. And it's going to come out right about now. See it come out of there? He never put that away. He never had firm control. And our short wing makes a really nice ruling incomplete. Now, let's say that our deep wing doesn't see that bobble. It would be good for that deep wing to come up and just simply pose a question. John, Fred, Susie, what made that incomplete? And in quick order, John, Susie, Freddie should be able to say, never had firm control. Thank you. But that's the kind of relationship that you need to have with your sideline partner. Okay, next clip. How many fouls does the left tackle commit on this play? That's really not the purpose of the clip, but two for sure. I wouldn't charge him with a UNR because he just kind of fell on the guy. But like if he like potentially has a safety issue, that could have been a third. Now, the reason why this clip is in here is this is an example of a play that easily could be predetermined that this is going to be incomplete. Oh, this kid can't catch this ball. Then all of a sudden you go, how in the world did he do that? So if your assumption is that yes, he can until it doesn't happen, you're working on the right side of the law. All right, next clip. All right, now the video isn't as good here, but it illustrates an important point. This pass is going to be a little bit underthrown. There's a little bit of contact between the DB and the receiver. Does that have any material effect on the receiver's ability to get back and potentially catch the ball? The answer to that should be no. So that is insignificant contact. That's something we're going to pass on. We're not going to deal with that. And again, we're not dealing with quality fouls tonight, but there in this particular case, the defensive back comes up and makes a really nice interception. Now, notice the back judge in this play. He doesn't come racing up here, stays back, keeps the big picture, comes up under control. He's looking at players. Forward progress does not belong to the back judge. Back judges, if you want to rule on forward progress, switch your position to line of scrimmage or something other than where you're working. Rarely, if ever, are you going to have a forward progress spot. Now, our deep wing should be coming up. Our short wing has probably the best look at this in terms of getting the hands under the ball, firm control. This probably, although the guy rolls towards the deep wing, so maybe the deep wing potentially could have seen it rattling around in there to make it incomplete. But again, this illustrates that judgments on catch, no catch, judgments on completed recoveries, etc., are crew responsibilities, or at least a couple of people, typically sometimes three or more, to come up with collective wisdom here to end up with the right judgment on the field. Next clip. Now notice our deep wing at the top of the screen. We don't have the benefit of seeing what happened that preceded this play, but he is not ready to officiate. Number one, he's on the field. He's not back to his proper cushion. Now, one or two things happen. Either we made the ball ready for play too quickly, which is a crew issue again. The umpire should be over the ball until the crew is in position to officiate. It might have been a ready for play situation with the referee. The point is that we've got to be in a rhythm. It might have been the responsibility of the deep wing that who knows what he was doing, whether good or unnecessary. But if he's on the move, we got to get him into the white and we got to get it back there quicker. There's not a sense of urgency here. We end up snapping the ball and he's 5, 10, 15, about 19 yards from the line of scrimmage, which isn't bad. But again, we're not really in position to make that decision. All right, now let's transition to the deep wing at the bottom of the screen. All right, he gives ground, but here again, we're really cruising as opposed to making a commitment to get to our goal line and get stationary. If we work harder as a deep wing, moving quicker, faster, number one, we'll find the goal line at goal line extended. We'll be stationary at the mesh point to see this receiver make a great catch. Now we end up with the right ruling, okay, which is good. That's, that's why we're here. But understand that our accuracy is going to go way up if we are in the proper position. And this would be a situation where we could have got stationary if we'd made a better commitment to getting to that goal line extended. The other thing is we slightly overrun the goal line. We need to start every play knowing how many big lines it's going to take us to get to our goal line, so that when we move, we know that, okay, the next line I'm passing is the goal line. So I'm not going to pass that pylon. All right. Mechanics. Now, back judges. Our deep wing comes up with a catch, which is, I believe, the correct ruling here. Let's say that you don't have a catch. Number one, if you are positive you do not have a catch, you are coming immediately with an incomplete signal. And then there's going to be a conversation between the back judge and the deep wing. What made that incomplete? Rich, he did not have firm control of the ball and the ball touched the turf. Okay, we're good to go. And then we're going to tell the referee what we have. And he's probably going to make an announcement that the ruling on the field is an incomplete pass. We're not going to explain why it's incomplete. We're simply going to say the ruling on the field is incomplete pass. If you're at Ford Field, maybe they review the play. All right, it's 9 o'clock. We are about halfway through the video here. We'll take a couple more and then we're going to call it a night after I make a couple of comments. Do we have another series or did we get through all of them, Gregor?
I can go to the next series if you want. This is MHSA football signers.
Fine, yeah, I want this one. This is an important play. All right, so yeah, go back to full screen. Now, what we're going to end up with is a catch in the very, very back corner at the far left of the screen. So let it run through live and then we will break it down. This is a good one to end tonight. Quarterback's flushed near the sideline. Okay, you got a diamond cutter back there. All right, again, those of you that have worked with me in previous years, when we talk about mechanics, you hear me talk about the importance of the deep wing when we're snapping inside the 7 to be back at that back corner. This is the poster child for why that is so important. And not sure that everyone always totally agrees or thinks it's all that important. Here's your proof how important that is. Now, because the snap occurred when it did, we didn't start there, but clearly our deep wing on this side of the field has got a piece of this particular judgment. Now, if you recognize that this is going to come down in the back third of the end zone, what you need to do is to take a couple of steps down the back edge of the white, get stationary, make sure that you have an angle so that you don't get blocked out. Here, we're a little bit late in our movement. We come up and we make a ruling of touchdown. Now, this is the correct ruling from what I can tell. The receiver gets a foot down, inbounds in the blue, and then falls out of bounds. Firm control of the ball, survives the ground. Good catch, good touchdown. Now, follow the play through, let it run, and be prepared to turn it off, Gregor, when I tell you to. All right, so now we get the deep wing coming up, and I assume he's coming up to confirm that the receiver still has the football. The back judge has already signaled, but now watch what we do. We both signal touchdown, and now we're coming up to discuss, was it a catch or not? We're too late. We've already signaled. If we're not certain of what we have, what we need to do is not make a signal until the two of those officials get together and converse, share their input, and then make a collective decision in terms of what you have. See, watch the players around him. The defensive players are going, yeah, he's out of bounds. That's incomplete. As opposed to having the conversation, confirming, yes, we had a catch, and then signaling your touchdown. Timing, procedures, mechanics are critical to making good decisions on catch, no catch. All right, again, thank you to everyone for tuning in. If you have thoughts or ideas or suggestions, please let me know, and we will take those under advisement and see what happens from there. So without any further ado, thank you for your attention and have a great evening.